Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Wrestling with Egos proudly brings to you its next installment of the Lean, Mean Wrestle Talking Machine. Happy Father's Day weekend to all of the dads out there and all the father figures out there. We appreciate you, everything you do, every day, all the time. I am joined this week by the Don, the big Don of Wrestling with Egos. Isaac is here. Thinking about RJ and Patrick, who are in absentia this weekend, but we wish them a happy Father's Day as well. Isaac, big man, how's it going?
It is going pretty well. It's doing pretty well. Can't complain. Very happy. Happy Juneteenth to everybody. Um, I know this is big day for us socially. We're not gonna go into that part. I'm wearing a shirt, championship for all those of Cleveland fans. First NBA championship 2016. You guys already know what it is. We're definitely celebrating. That's what's up.
That I always see this time of year, I always see more than one person on my timeline, and I think it might have been you this time. The memory of that chase down of LeBron on Andre Iguodala, that still sends chills up my spine. Because I remember thinking, oh crap, that this is going to be a cakewalk layup, and then all of a sudden LeBron just morphed across the screen and blocked him from behind, and that was the most pivotal play. I mean, you can talk about Irving's three after that, and Kevin Love has shut down D on Steph Curry and all that. But for me, that chase down block of Iguodala was huge.
Just the fact that it happened, the fact that I'm sitting here saying, "Oh no, not again," and then we actually won. I'm flipping 52 channels. Like, did it happen? Is ESPN bluffing me? Is this another another blunder for Cleveland? Blah blah blah. And,
Oddly enough,
and
the Lovebird and I were traveling. We went out to see some friends of mine from high school. They live out in New Jersey now, and it just so happened that all this stuff happened at the same day because we were there for her son's, I believe, second birthday party or something like that. We finally were able to get out there and spend some time with them. And we were watching Game 7. She was like, "Okay, you got if this goes down, you got to if you're going to celebrate, run outside and celebrate. You got to do it quietly because I don't want to wake little one up and that sort of thing." So it was the quietest celebration I've ever been a part of. Plenty of hugs and high fives and stuff like that, but we were not really screaming the way we would if we were in a bar or we were watching outside. I mean, there was actually more tears than there was screaming because these friends of mine are ardent Cleveland, just Cleveland period fans. I mean, it's no secret that my sports fandom is spread all across the country. But Cavaliers, I will happily support the home team on that one. I mean, it was a great run, and they finally slayed the beast that was Golden State that year. So massive ups to everybody involved with that. We're going to get a little topical this week, bring you up to speed on some current events that are going on and some news nuggets. That's going to be the main focus of this week. It's going to be a very newsy type show. So, Isaac, indulge me for a moment. I want to set the scene for you.
go ahead.
Because Tuesday night, I'm sorry, on NXT, we had a long-awaited return, and I am so happy about this. The main event of the In Your House pay-per-view from Sunday night ended in chaos. Karrion Kross retained the NXT Championship to the surprise of no one. And one of the last images of that pay-per-view, an interviewer was chasing after William Regal, who's the commissioner of NXT right now. And he was leaving the building beleaguered and teary-eyed slightly, and all he would say before the feed before it went off the air was, "I think a change is in order," or "I think something has to change," and you'll see what that is Tuesday night. Fast forward to Tuesday night, he's out in the ring, and Karrion Kross comes out and interrupts him, playing the heel role to perfection. And as Karrion Kross is dressing down Regal, you hear that wonderful theme, and I forget what the name of it is, but don't, don't, don't.
Joe, Joe,
Yep.
Joe, Joe.
Samoa Joe comes strolling down the ramp, and I was like, oh my goodness. I think that he is back. And I think this is going to be an interesting role for him because Regal asked him if he would be the new commissioner in the ring, and Joe declined. But he's all about affording Commissioner Regal the respect he deserves, so he would be happy to be a right-hand man, so to speak. And then they shook on it, and then he says, and the only question left is, what are you still doing in this ring, right in Karrion Kross's grill, which was pretty awesome. And that's how it kind of went the rest of the night. There was situations would arise. He put Adam Cole in the Coquina clutch when him and Kyle O'Reilly were going at it. Him and Pete Dunne had an epic stare down midway through the show. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Isaac, because one thing that Regal said in the ring was, if you're going to do this, you can't be a competitor. And you can't lay a hand on the talent unless you're provoked. I saw news reports during the week that he is still not cleared medically for in-ring action. So if that's the case, do you think this is a good use of his talents? Do you want to see him back in the ring at some point if he's able to? And where do you think they go from here?
Great use of his talent. Great on the mic. Um, Great working with everyone that he worked with. Um, just having him, Adam Cole, and Pete Dunne, and everyone just step up to him like, yeah, I can still do something. I just can't do it yet. Would I like to see him come back to in ring action? If I don't, I'm crazy. Of course, I want to see him come back. Hopefully, that might happen in the future. The fact that he's back in WWE in any capacity is fantastic for me. I want him there. I think that he should have never left, but I don't really understand what they're doing and who they want where and so on and so forth. Of course, I'm not in charge. Having him back is fantastic. Having him in that role, fantastic. If he can come back to in-ring action, even better. I want to see him go up against Karrion Kross. He's going to have killer matches with tons of people in the NXT locker room. Now, what's going to happen? We'll see. I'm excited to see what they're doing, and I'm happy he's back.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because it makes me wonder. Now, I don't know what injury he actually has that he's I don't know if it's concussion related, I don't know if it's spinal cord related, I don't know what. Because it seems to me he moves around pretty well. It's not like it's not like he has to walk solely to the ring. It's not like I mean, he ripped his suit jacket off backstage to, put Adam Cole in the headlock the way he did. Um, so it might be something where, and I appreciate the caution. I don't ever want to see anybody rush back to the ring too soon because that's, I think, what happened, of course, with Daniel Bryan, with any other names you could mention. And it brings me to an interesting theory that I have about Karrion Kross. I don't necessarily like the presentation of him as a champion.
What way would you like him to be presented as?
I've seen a lot of people run him down and make him like back off and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that Joe shouldn't have, but ever since he beat Balor, there's been times where he's been made to look like less than, you know. Adam Cole cut a scathing promo on him a couple weeks ago. And that's just the kind of mic guy that Adam Cole is. I mean, Adam Cole could eviscerate me and leave me in a pool of tears, in about 5 seconds. That's no secret. Um, But I don't know that necessarily like outside of the matches that Cross has had to win the title and retain the title, he's been presented as this unstoppable force. You know, that's just something that I noticed. Maybe I'm off base about that. Maybe I'm not paying as close of attention as I think I am, but there's just been something a little bit off, a little bit lacking with the presentation of him. Like he's not this killer that everybody thinks he is.
I don't think so. I agree with you on that one. I don't think he's coming across in that light just yet. Um, I think that you know Over the Edge was in your house. The last pay per view was supposed to do that for him, with him taking on everybody at one time, and to give him that stability and to give him that clout. I don't know if it came across that way or they decided at the last minute, hey, let's switch it up, because that's the one thing WWE does the best is they have a plan. We're going to execute that plan, and then in the last 5 minutes, we're going to put a swerve on it.
Yeah.
And that
But
could have
I'm
been.
I'm thinking of it from the standpoint of what made the previous, and especially with NXT, you can't see this so much about the main roster. Um, you have to look really close to see it on the main roster, but NXT champions that you can rattle off have had career-defining feuds with one other guy or girl, and that's what's made them. You know, you think of Samoa Joe as champion. You know, he had great feuds with Balor. He had great feuds with Nakamura. You think of um, Adam Cole as NXT champion. He's had great feuds with Velveteen Dream. He's had great feuds with Kyle O'Reilly. He's had great feuds with Johnny Gargano, and so on and so forth. Um, Same thing with Finn. I mean, Finn, when Finn Balor was champion the first time, he had great feuds with a bunch of people. Um, and then the second time around, you know, he made Kyle O'Reilly as a singles competitor, in my opinion, with those two matches they had that were absolute, marathons. Um, and but it doesn't feel like Cross has had like, where Austin had Rock and Triple H had Stone Cold, and Bret Hart had
Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels and so on and so forth, and Undertaker and Shawn. You didn't have that definitive, Undertaker and Kane even. You didn't have that definitive 1 and 1A that makes a rivalry great and that puts the stamp on a guy as your champion. The way, Bailey and Sasha did for each other, and the way Charlotte and Becky have done for each other. So it just seems to me like I guess I'm waiting for, and this is where I would love to see Pete Dunne get the rocket strapped to him a little bit, because I think Pete Dunne and Karrion Kross, if they're allowed to go off and do maybe a 3 or 4 month program with each other, where maybe at the pay per view, like Dunne steps up and earns the right to be the number one contender, and comes within an eyelash of beating Kross. And I don't even care about heel babyface in this case. It's just two bruisers getting in the ring and seeing who's the better man. There's nothing wrong with doing that every once in a while.
I'm definitely okay with that, and I agree. The Karen hasn't found the yin to his yang yet, and I think that they're still trying to figure out who works best with him. And they're throwing a bunch of names on the table and seeing what rises to the top and you know who's doing what they can do at the best at this time. I think that's another thing that they're doing.
Because sometimes, those fatal four ways and fatal five ways and every man for themselves kind of things, they don't accomplish what you set out to accomplish, because then it just turns into either a spot fest or a smosh or too much chaos. A little bit of chaos is fine as long as you get a clear picture coming out of it. And I don't think we got that clear picture, because now you have Joe coming in and dressing him down.
Right.
It makes the presentation look a little bit suspect to me.
I agree. I agree.
Um, and we do have Hell in a Cell tomorrow night. which is going to be very interesting because they already gave away a match on SmackDown. Roman has already beaten Rey Mysterio in Hell in a Cell. And what I hear was a very entertaining match. Those that watched it all the way through said it was very entertaining and that Rey did his job. I mean, there was never any doubt that Rey was going to win that match, or there never any doubt that Rey would beat Roman. Roman was always going to win, but it's how you get there. And there were several points at which, if Rey could have put a few more moves together, maybe Rey wins. But again, Roman comes out looking strong. And then maybe the reason they did it on Friday, maybe they have something else planned for Sunday now with the two of them. You know, um, big question that I have about tomorrow night for Hell in a Cell. Does Bobby Lashley retain against Drew McIntyre? Or does McIntyre beat him?
That is a very interesting question. I got a feeling that they are going to keep the belt with Bobby Lashley.
That's what I would do also.
I think that once they get on the road and get back to certain cities, I think it's out of respect for Bobby and the work that he put in, and no disrespect to Drew in any way, shape, or form. I think they want to see what the crowd reaction is to Bobby in a live crowd atmosphere, and then decide what they want to do with the title after that. We all know what they're doing on SmackDown, and we all knew that there was no way that Ray was going to beat Roman, and Roman still looks like, nobody can beat him. And we're still waiting for some big name to come back and, beat Roman. And
Did you see him put two big names on notice this week?
he put out John Cena, he put out The Rock. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if they come back, they gonna smash you, dog. So don't sit. But then
Well, I don't know. I mean, that line, they better stay on the set. I was like, I was shaking my head and chuckling and saying, okay, that's a good line. They better stay on the set. The more I think about it, if one of those two guys comes back, they can't go over on him. They just can't because and I saw the thing too about how eventually the plan is to turn Roman face. Somehow, I mean they're threading a huge needle with that because let's put it this way: if The Rock comes back, it's not going to happen at his expense because The Rock is not going to come back as a bad guy. It'd be darn near impossible. With as much goodwill as Rock has and as much eyes as he would bring to the product, he has to come back as a baby face that's trying to like put the family back in line. I think it's more tantalizing for Cena to come back as a heel, you know. And there's been conjecture as to how they would pull that off. I don't know how they would pull that off.
I saw that. I hear what you're saying. I find it more intriguing myself personally for them to have Rock come back. And the reason I say that is because Roman's going to sit here and say, "You're all eating off my table." And then Rock's going to look at him and say, "Really? So they're all eating off at your table? But I
I
put
built this table.
but I put you in the movie, so you're eating off of me. You're behind me on all these other things in life." So the promo that The Rock could cut would be just simply amazing, And Roman can't sit here and
And
just
that's not a promo that you do on Zoom either. That's a promo that has to be done in the ring, two lions pacing around and that sort of thing.
and it's
You
got
know.
and it's got to be done in front of a live crowd.
Yes.
And that's what I'm waiting for. That's what I want to happen. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but that's where I'm going with that. Would it be interesting? Absolutely. Don't know if it's gonna happen, but it is what it is. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
We're going to switch gears a little bit now. We're going to talk about that AEW action. Couple of things, a couple of newsworthy tidbits. I don't have as much on the in-ring stuff. There's been some nice in-ring stuff that's been happening with AEW. To be honest, summer's been kind of crazy already, going here, going there, doing this, doing that. So I haven't had a chance. I'm probably about 2 episodes behind on AEW right now. I'm very, very sorry. I'll say a couple, Hail Marys and for my penance and things like that. Cum Bene Sancti Spiritus. Um, but I heard a news item this week that we talked a couple weeks ago about how they're resuming a touring schedule very soon, if not, or I want to say the end of this month, beginning of July. They're going to get back on the road again. They're doing a lot of the southern states first. They're going to Louisiana. They're going to Texas. And I think they might be going to Georgia too. But I also heard that in September, I don't have the exact date in front of me. They're coming to New York City, Queens.
New York City.
Yeah. They're going to be in Arthur Ashe Stadium, which for the uninitiated is where they hold the finals of the U.S. Open tennis tournament. Hence the namesake of Arthur Ashe. That stadium, I want to say, when it's at full capacity, can hold 13,000 people, I think. And there was a post on Twitter about all of the AEW talent who claim New York as their hometown. One name sticks out for me on that list, who, when this gentleman walks out in that venue, he might tear the place down on his own, and that would be Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston is going to get the pop to end all pops. I mean, Patrick likes to talk about the Road Warrior pop, and he likes to talk about the pop that Edge got when he came out the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago, and that sort of thing. The pop that Triple H got when he came out in Madison Square Garden from his quad surgery.
Right.
This has a chance to blow all those out of the water. Because Eddie Kingston can do no wrong right now.
I completely agree. I'm waiting for that pop. And well, let me first say, it is also something well deserved by Eddie Kingston. He's been putting in a lot of work and doing some really good work. So I will be happy for him when he gets the pop that he deserves in front of a live crowd like that.
And if you think about it, everybody on that card is going to get pops. Whether they're, babyface pops or heel pops. I mean, the first time Orange Cassidy walks out, and just, yeah, hey, that kind of thing. Take the pop that Hangman Page got at the last AEW pay-per-view they did in front of a live crowd. Multiply that by like 10,000. Because his star is on the rise, and I'm already fantasizing about him taking the belt off of Omega at some point. That's what they're building towards. Which, if you could be there, front row, which superstar coming out would give you that kind of reaction where you would just scream yourself hoarse?
Oh my God.
Who on that roster is appointment television for you?
I want to say, for me right now, it's got to be Jon Moxley. I might lose it because he's been putting in good work lately. Eddie Kingston. There's going to be multiple people. Hangman, Cody, just because I love Cody. There's a lot of people that are gonna. I'm gonna leave Horace, and I know that, and I will talk for 5 days, and that's the one I'd be like, you know what, I'm good with that. It's very similar to, I think Eddie's gonna have a pop the way Hulk Hogan had a pop when he was in Cleveland a couple of years ago, when he just came back. He was Hulk when he was in the red and yellow, and they showed it on TV, and Cleveland put out, and he couldn't even get through his promo. It was just that bad.
I
So
mean, it's going to be amazing to me to see, and I even think people like somebody like a Britt Baker, the pop she's going to get, because Britt Baker is going into Stone Cold Steve Austin territory right now, where no matter what she does, she is beloved and adored for the work she has put in. And I don't like her as a character, but I can appreciate what she's done along with a lot of other women on that roster, by the way, because when you first started out, we've talked at length about this before, how the AEW women's roster, paper thin, injuries, travel restrictions, other setbacks and things like that. And Britt Baker has put her stamp on that and said, okay, this is my division now. You got to come through me if you want a seat at this table. And she's not giving up very many seats at the table, very much. And I can only imagine what would happen if Rosa got a full-time gig with AEW either, because she's still kind of in that in between right now, where every couple of weeks she'll show up, but she's still very much an NWA contracted performer. Plus, she still runs her own promotion out of Texas, Mission Pro Wrestling. So I don't know if she's at the place in her life where she could devote a full-time AEW schedule, but I hope that's in the offing. Because for me, the money match down the line, wherever you want to have it, Full Gear, Revolution, all out, whatever, is Rosa taking the belt off of Baker at some point.
I do like it. I understand that AEW and their women's division is kind of paper thin, and that's good. But those women are putting in some work. I do want to give them the respect that they deserve. Um, Thunder Rosa,
And keep in mind, I don't mean it's paper thin anymore, because all of a sudden, like almost out of nowhere, they've got like depth now. They've got Chris Statlander. They've got Tay Conti. They're going to have Anna Jay coming back really soon. And could you imagine that moment if Anna Jay were to win the women's championship, and how, like, I just got goosebumps thinking about that, because who believed in Anna Jay quite a bit?
Brody Lee.
Mr. Brody Lee, of the Exalted One of the Dark Order. So I mean, that would be a moment worth pursuing down the road when she comes back and she's worked her way into the picture. And of course, Hikaru Rashid is not going anywhere. Nyla Rose ain't going anywhere. I mean, so we're throwing some names out here now, whereas before it was kind of like, yeah, but you
Right.
know, so I'm really excited about all of that. I'm just anxious to see a big show again for AEW. I'm anxious to see what they do with people like MJF, what they do with Sammy Guevara, who is the ascension has begun for Sammy Guevara. We talked several times earlier this summer about that. The pop he's going to get is going to be electric. And if I mention Sammy, how can we forget the first time Le Champion strolls out? Can you imagine? Well, you can imagine it because you've seen it before. 19,000 or 13,000 people singing along to, oh geez, Judas. Whoa, we almost had to check my credentials at the door. I couldn't remember the name of the song. Yeah, Isaac just kind of drifts out of frame, like, okay, we'll see you later.
And see, no, it's okay.
And we're done. So it's gonna be interesting for all these promotions to return to promotions again, or to return to live shows again, because we're gonna see it's kind of like they've all been in the lab, like Kofi Kingston's kind of saying, I stay in the lab, I live in the lab. All of these experiments that they've been working on for the past year plus. Now we're going to take them back out into a live crowd again. So we're going to see how Ding Dong Hello, for example, translates to a live crowd for Bayley. We're going to see how an audience full of people responds to the Pinnacle, when MJF and Sean Spears and all those boys come out, you know, we're going to actually get another live crowd reaction for Roman Reigns because he hasn't really been in front of a substantial crowd yet. Yeah, he's been around maybe a couple hundred people at a pay-per-view, and I mean, he was around, 20,000 people at WrestleMania, isolated and whatnot. But I'm anxious to see what he does now in front of, 17,550 people who are booing their asses off at him. Something tells me he'll rise to the occasion in a way that he might not have been able to 4 years ago, because that's just his evolution as a performer. But there's still that little voice in the back of your head, like, gee, I wonder how this is going to go down. So it's going to be interesting to see.
I'm very interested to see how everyone's going to react and what the crowd energy is going to be like, and the fact that everyone's been cooped up for such a long time and they get a chance to actually express themselves. I'm very excited for that. Very excited.
Another interesting nugget that I read, and there's several reasons for this, and we can list them all. We can talk at whatever length you want to about it. But it was kind of surprising to me that AEW as a company is not profitable right now, or have yet to turn a profit. I don't know I might be getting my semantics wrong, but they are not. I read it. They're just not a profitable company right now. They're still operating in the red, and it got me to thinking it takes a lot for any company to be profitable. If you step back and you take a look at it, all these things you have to, all these debits, before you get all the credits coming in. And you brought up an interesting point in the pre-show meeting that I wasn't considering. And you get to share that interesting point right now to show off how smart you are.
What I mentioned earlier was that we were in the middle of a pandemic. We're hopefully coming to the end of a pandemic. Now, AEW didn't have the luxury of being profitable before this pandemic hit. Once they started to get their stride and get their balance, everything went into free fall. And it wasn't their fault. It was no one's fault. We can blame it on semantics. We can blame it on the pandemic. We can blame it on a lot of things. But the fact of it was they were getting to a very good point, and they were on the road. And the problem became the pandemic. You can't turn a profit if you can't get ticket sales. And then ticket sales turn into t-shirt sales, and then it goes into all the other things, the t-shirts, the headbands, the wristbands, the whatever the case may be that they're doing. You're not going to want to
And
buy.
the quantities of people that were attending at Dahlia's place were not enough to offset that, because I just started thinking about, okay, let's think about if I was going to run a wrestling promotion, what are all the things I'm going to be writing a check for? I got to pay my talent. I got to rent the building. I need security. I need, catering to some extent. I've got to get all the merchandise produced that I want to sell. So already that's 5 big ones.
And
I got to purchase TV time. I need a TV contract.
you have to have accessories for them to hit each other with,
Well,
chairs, tables, steel cage matches, all that extra stuff that
all
just
that
goes
production.
bottom line. And obviously, you don't normally you would see, the end result and you would see the end result of all those things if we were in a normal time.
Right.
If this was 5 years ago, it'd be something totally different. They'd be fine. But they're not because of the pandemic, and that's a big, huge, major thing. Plus, they're in one spot.
Yeah.
Just
And I
like,
don't bring this up to be an alarmist. I have no doubt about it that once they are able to resume and barring any setbacks, and heaven forbid, knock on wood, we don't want any of these setbacks, to where we have to, go back to isolation or anything like that. Please don't do that. There's no doubt in my mind that they are going to be a profitable company. Are we talking about at the levels of a WWE? Not yet. I don't think that that's a long ways away from that, and I don't think that's the goal. We've said that so many times on this show. The goal of AEW should not be to put WWE out of business. The goal should be we are a viable alternative. If you don't like what you see over here, come check us out and give us a shot. We think you'll like what you see. Um, the goal is to coexist and exist in a different universe over here than what's over here. But I have no doubt whatsoever that you get a touring schedule going again, and you generate all of that income and that revenue that that an entertainment based company counts on. It's the same thing it's the same thing with Major League Baseball. A lot of these teams that didn't have full houses of fans last year, they had to make some serious decisions about, okay, I can't give out these big free agent contracts. I can't re-sign some of these guys. My Chicago Cubs had to do that. They had to let some people go, and they might have to do it again in this offseason just because you don't count on all of the things that you had before. And we could name any number of companies that had to diversify and do all of those things.
right, exactly. I completely understand. The same thing would happen with football and every other major sport. We have to sit here and worry about social distancing and making sure that the talent don't come down with COVID-19, and
Yeah.
then that throws everything into a flux. I mean, Drew McIntyre came down with it when he was champion.
Yes.
If he was seriously injured or God forbid he had passed away, there would have been that would have been opening the floodgates at WWE with them saying that they're putting themselves and their talent and everyone around them in grave danger. And that in itself could have destroyed them. Are the lawyers that great? They could be, but at the same time, you have that stain on you, just like they have the stain on them with Chris Benoit. They have the stain on them with Owen Hart. They have that stain on them from people that passed away while under them. So, what could have happened? Don't know. We'll see. The same. Charlotte Flair. I'm sorry, I forgot her too. So, there's a lot of people that could have gone under that wing.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely a lot to think about. Well, we want to thank you for joining us this week. As we said, it was kind of going to be a news heavy week this week, and we thought those were the most important things to talk about. As we get ourselves up on out of here, Isaac, any final thoughts from you?
no, just we were going to add a couple more things to that I'll just throw onto the universe to the timeline with Tessa Blanchard winning the World Heavyweight Championship, um, with China being the first female Intercontinental Championship. I did happen to see her documentary they had on her on Vice. They didn't go deep into how badly that they screwed her over, um, and basically bankrupted her for the rest of her life.
They
I feel
did or they didn't?
they did, and
Okay.
they blacked. They didn't go into deep into it, but we know that they did.
Right.
And the fact that she's
I'm
not
having an issue right now trying to find episodes of it because the TV streaming services that I have right now don't have the tiers that I'm on basically don't have Viceland.
okay,
Um, my Hulu that I have has the previous two seasons, but the new ones aren't there yet. I'm sure at some point they will be, and I'm not saying this for pity. I will see them all eventually because there's quite a few people this season that I am very interested in seeing and learning about and all of that. So For the disembodied voices of RJ and Patrick, I am Brian, and that is Isaac, and we are the Lean Mean Wrestle Talking Machine known as Wrestling with Egos. One more again, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. We appreciate you for all you do. And until we meet again, this is why we love wrestling, and we will see you next time.
Happy Juneteenth, everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.